Hello, my name is Melissa Mancha. Before I begin my presentation, I do have a rabbit. She did come up onto the screen, and so if there's any background noise or if you see something moving around in the back of the screen, take in mind that that is my pet rabbit, and she likes to explore. But yes, my name is Melissa, and I'm going to make an extensive analysis on the poem Torso by Francisco Aragón, and this is for my English 3326 course for modern poetry. Before jumping into the excursion, the following presentation will focus on the poem's title, the poem structure, literary devices depicted, and interpretations that one may or may not overlook. So starting off strong, what are the first impressions for the title? Torso. So personally, when I read torso, the first thing that pops into my head is a fragment of a body. It's part of the human anatomy. Upon further, I guess, research, I noticed that torso can also be art. And when I mean art, I mean sculptures. So in Greek life, I guess, there's a bunch of sculptures that are just fragmented. It's just the head, it's the chest, sometimes it's the whole body, missing the limbs. And yeah, furthermore, the title torso may suggest an incomplete or fragmented part of the human form. One can immediately evoke thoughts of art, as I said before. To be more precise, a sculpture. And this prepares the reader for an exploration of partiality, absence, and perhaps the focus of a particular aspect of the human body or experience. So for the absence, I will be jumping later on in this presentation, but for now we're going to hold that topic on hold. So moving on, form and structure. So what I noticed about this poem is that it can be considered as a free verse poem simply because the first and last lines are the first and last stanzas are single lined, and the following lines go as: despite the absent head whose eyes, that's the first line, and then the last line saying go blind. Funny enough, when separated, top and bottom, you have to read it to make it make sense. However, when you take the first line or first stanza and the last line / last stanza together, it makes a cohesive sentence saying despite the absent head whose eyes go blind. I really didn't notice that trait until I started making the script that I have below me, and I thought that was very interesting and a whole analysis on its own. I really don't know if the poet meant to do that or if he did that by accident, but either way, I just thought that was intriguing, interesting, and just peculiar. Does that mean that it is fragmented itself? Because again, these are just single line verses, but when put together, it makes it complete. I don't know, it just blew my mind when I read that. But moving on, as the stanzas that are not single lined are 3 lines long, and this form complements the subject of the poem as a lack of structure. It is rigid, which reflects the theme of incompletion suggested by the title itself, torso. To continue, to continue on literary devices, imagery and language is very important in this poem. Aragón uses vivid imagery to draw the reader into a scene and emotions depicted in the poem. The language is precise and evocative, painting a clear picture while also leaving space for interpretation and emotional resonance. resonance. Forgive me if I mispronounce that. But yes, you can take notice on that for stanzas 4 through 6. The following stanzas go as: your eyes, leading them slowly to regions below the waist. That block of stone, more than a figure, disfigured and short. So right there, those two stanzas, because they are in between 4 through 6. What pictures in your head? It's, yes, the body, the torso, quite literally. But then on the last lines, it says, that block of stone, more than a figure, disfigured and short. Really makes you think of stone, of a sculpture, just the chest and the back area showing while everything else is missing. Moving on, themes and meanings. So I kind of noticed that there is about a few different themes here, about 3. Actually, there's more. Fragmentation and completion, which can be considered as one. Art and one's perception. And lastly, memory and absence. So to begin with, fragmentation and incompletion. The torso can symbolize something that is not whole, as said previously in this presentation, which can relate to loss or focus on a part of rather than the whole. More of the saying as detail oriented, focus on the little things, not the bigger picture. This can be interpreted as a metaphor for human experiences, relationships, or identities that are partial and or broken. Secondly, art and perception. The poem can draw parallels between the human body and art, specifically sculptures. And one can make this connection with the line, that block of stone, more than a figure, disfigured and short. That's from stanza 6, and I believe it is the last line for the poem. Oh, that's actually the first line. So, yeah, first line of that stanza. But yes, that is a line. A torso in art often signifies this classical beauty and the enduring nature of human form, even if it's at an incomplete state. This can lead to reflections on how we perceive beauty, meaning in fragments. Again, this is more of a focus on the details, not the bigger picture type. Lastly, memory and absence. The poem can also explore how we remember and cherish parts of our experiences, those who are close to us, our loved ones. The absence of the whole makes the existing parts sad or poignant, sad or regretful. That's what I'm trying to say. Yet very precious to us. This theme can be tied to memory, nostalgia, and maybe even a passage of time. The connection again can be made through the following stanzas that say, the supple flesh hums with the afterglow of those eyes, which is why the curve of chest shimmers, which is why the twist of loin turns that look into a smile, snaring your eyes. That stanza specifically made me believe that it was poignant. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, but that stanza itself made it sound sad, maybe regretful, but the way the diction and the structure of the stanza is put makes me believe that this person or the poet here holds that very precious, very dear to their heart. Oh, and this last theme, personal and emotional undertones. So what I saw from Mr. Aragón's work for this poem is that it can blend personal experience with broader themes. In this case, it could be a personal reflection on loss, love, or identity. And it is 10 minutes. Oh my gosh, I could keep on talking if I wanted to, but I guess I have to close this. Conclusion. Francisco Aragón's poem Torso is deep and evocative, delving into themes of fragmentation, art, memory, and emotion through its rich imagery and free verse form. The poem challenges readers to consider the nature of incompleteness and the beauty that can be discovered in fragments. Aragón's personal and emotional overtones lend dimension to the poem, transforming it into a moving meditation on the pieces to human existence.